Right. Call halal. Wa kabawat. La Yahweh. Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai. Ba Hashem Harachak Dash. And double honor to the elders at Great Millstone and Shalom, to the elect of the nation of Israel. And it's going to be I'm going to revisit 1 Corinthians 10. Okay, I want to revisit 1 Corinthians 10 and go over this chapter and also connect this New Testament book to Leviticus 17. I just chose Leviticus 17 because it's all, there's other chapters in Leviticus that also tie into this chapter here. But I'm going to show you that these, these people that Paul is speaking to here in Corinth are Israelites. Okay? Up here in the synopsis, it says lessons from Israel's idolatry. Okay, so lessons from Israel's idolatry. I don't want you to forget, verse 1 in the NOT, I don't want you to forget, dear brothers and sisters, about our ancestors in the wilderness long ago. So he calls these men and women in Corinth brothers and sisters, meaning of the same flesh, of the same blood, of the same lineage, of the same stock. And he also says our ancestors, meaning your forefathers, those that came before you in the wilderness long ago. Now, we could all agree that the Israelites were in the wilderness. All of them, so Paul here is breaking down some history to them of us, crossing over the Red Sea and being in the wilderness, right? And he says, all of them were guided by a cloud that moved ahead of them, and all of them walked through the sea on dry ground. In the cloud and in the sea, all of them were baptized as followers of Moses. All of them ate the same spiritual food, and all of them drank the same spiritual water, for they drank from the spiritual rock that traveled with them, and that rock was Yahweh Shai. Yet God was not pleased with them, with most of them, and their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. These things, now Paul is referencing Old Testament books, because this is all, what Paul is saying here is all recorded in the Old Testament. These things happened as a warning to us, so that we would not crave evil things as they did, meaning as our ancestors craved. And what was that? Here it is. Or worship idols as some of them did. As the scriptures say, the people celebrated with feasting and drinking, and they indulged in pagan revelry. And we must not engage in sexual immorality as some of them did, causing 23,000 of them to die in one day. All right, let me jump down to verse 14. So, my dear friends, flee from worship of idols. You are reasonable people. Decide for yourselves if what I'm saying is true. When we bless the cup at the Lord's table, aren't we sharing in the blood of Amashak Yahweh Shai? And when we break the bread, aren't we sharing in the body of Yahweh Shai? And though we are many, we all eat from one loaf of one bread, meaning being partakers of that same communion, of that same body, right? Showing that we are one body. Think about the people of Israel. Weren't they united by eating the sacrifices at the altar? What am I trying to say? Am I saying that food offered to idols has some significance, or that idols are real gods? No, not at all. I am saying that these sacrifices are offered to demons and not to God. And I don't want you to participate with demons. So what Israelites in Corinth were doing, they were offering food sacrifice to idols or to another god. They weren't doing it in the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. They weren't doing it in the name of our God. They were doing it in the name of a false deity. That's why it says you cannot drink from the cup of the Lord and from the cup of demons too. You cannot eat at the Lord's table and at the table of demons too. What do we dare to rouse the Lord's jealousy? Do you think we are stronger than he is? Right? The Lord calls himself a jealous God. That's why you don't put no other God before the Most High. He tells you that in Exodus, the 20th chapter. All right? So Paul is going into a few things in this chapter, but let's tie it in. Also, you could read 1 Corinthians 8, and I believe, what's that? 1 Corinthians 8, let me see. 1 Corinthians 8. Yep, 1 Corinthians 8 of meat sacrificed to idols. And 1 Corinthians 8 and 1 Corinthians 10. All right. Now, let's jump to Leviticus 17, right? Check this out. This Leviticus 17 in the NOT. This is verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, up here in the synopsis, it says prohibitions against eating blood. Give the following instructions to Aaron and his sons and all the people of Israel. This is what the Lord has commanded. If any native Israelites sacrifices a bull or a lamb or a goat anywhere inside or outside the camp, instead of bringing it to the entrance of the tabernacle to present it as an offering to the Lord, that person will be as guilty as a murderer. Such a person has shed blood and will be cut off from the community. The purpose of this rule is to stop the Israelites from sacrificing animals in the open fields. It will ensure that they bring their sacrifices to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle so he can present them to the Lord as peace offerings. Now, I looked up a commentary, which I already knew the answer to it, but there's more to this than just this commentary. But to give you a simple explanation, it says, I looked up these commentaries. I looked some up. This is Elliott's commentary. It says, which they offer in an open field. The first part of this verse is better rendered in order that the children of Israel may bring within the precincts of the sanctuary their sacrifices which they are sacrificing on the face of the field, that is, which they have heretofore been in the habit of offering in the open fields to heathen deities, and which in the future they might be inclined to go again. The phrase open field donates the space outside the encampment in the contradistinction to the enclosed place where the Israelites sojourned. Right, so you had to bring it to the priest at the tabernacle, not in the open field where where you'll have like an Israelite out there in the open field under some type of tree or by water or somewhere in a cave somewhere offering that meat to an idol, because that was heavy at that time. Just like Jake's, now they're heavy into offering their food to a false god. They pray over their food to a white Jesus. It was heavy back then. And that was the purpose. And that's why Paul in the book of Corinth was explaining to these Israelites that, look, I don't want you sacrificing these animals to a false god, right? Because these gods are nothing. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you sacrificing these animals to a false god. And all these animals were clean beasts. They weren't like they were sacrificing, which our people do sacrifice like pork, but all these animals were clean beasts. Okay, you had goat, you had rams, you had um, all these clean animals that we sacrificed. But now you know Jake, they be sacrificing unclean beasts or whatever they can. And that's what was happening in the church of Corinth. All right. So Leviticus 17:5 again. The purpose of this rule is to stop the Israelites from sacrificing animals in the open fields. It will ensure that they bring their sacrifices to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle, so he can present them to the Lord as peace offerings. Then a priest will be able to splatter the blood against the Lord's altar at the entrance of the tabernacle, and he will burn the fat as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. And what comes to mind when reading this is like you'll have like the northern kingdom where they'll cut like the until this day they'll like cut the chicken's neck and they'll start splattering the blood and doing their little witchcraft and santeria with it. They'll start splattering the blood all over to all in the name of a false god. Verse 7, check this one out. The people must no longer be unfaithful to the Lord by offering sacrifices to the goat idols. So you had a goat idol. This is a permanent law for them to be observed from generation to generation. Give them this command as well. That's what I wanted to get here. So you see how this ties in perfectly? Like you'll have Israelites that were in a Gentile state of mind. Even here, even in Leviticus 17, never mind just reading the New Testament, but here in Leviticus 17, Israelites were in a Gentile state of mind. They were sacrificing things offered to idols. And that made them distant from the Most High. They were cut off from the people. So this Gentile thing in the New Testament is not a new concept. You know, it's not a new concept. Or Israelites being in a Gentile state of mind is not a new concept. It's like, for example, hold on. It's giving me a problem. Come on, man. Let's go to Psalm 106. This is also in the Old Testament, right? Psalm 106 and verse 36. And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan. So you even had Jake sacrificing their own children, their own seed, to the Canaanite deities. And the land was polluted with blood. So this is nothing new. All right, that was like a straight up video, like straight to the point video. This is a straight to the point video. 1 Corinthians 10, 1 Corinthians 8, 1 Timothy chapter 4 speaks of things offered to idols. This wasn't just happening in the church of Corinth. It goes all the way back to our history in the Old Testament. All right, so anytime you got a rosary bead around your neck, you're sacrificing to an idol. All right, you're gonna live and die for that idol. All right, you got guys sacrificing their whole life for women, or to giving their whole life to women. to the black queen, to their Latina queen, right? What about turning and repenting and turning from your sins and giving your body to the Most High, right? To Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, or giving your body a living sacrifice instead of giving your time and effort to a bunch of no gods that can't speak. All right, so with that, shalom.